Aha! Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round 3 of the Thunderwood Sim2Race Championship. We are kind of on schedule, maybe 7 minutes behind. We're fashionably late, do apologize for that, but what can you do? Let me just check that that I do have the correct microphone on. Just give me a sec. Okay, cool, yep. Okay, so on the technical side, it seems like we're all good to go. So, joining us today, we have a particularly big roster. We have our regular Sim2Race contestants, which are Liam Meredith in the number 9 yellow car. We have James Partridge in the blue number 14, Ollie Wilmot in the 17 bright green car, Samuel Rasool, the winner of the last 2 races, in the 21 orange car. We have Chris Brook, number 23, in the white BMW E30. There he is, just chasing down Horn MX-5 right there. Let's put the camera on him for a second. Clipping the chicane as you do, because this is a very difficult chicane to navigate with any kind of speed, which is the whole point of this circuit, right? It's made by the chicane. Well, actually, there's a lot of things that make up this circuit and make it great, which we will come on to in just a moment. Then in the... Oh, who is that in the... Oh my goodness, that's Rob Dowsett then, who missed last week's race up to a little bit of banditry just coming into turn 1. Never mind. Anyway, so then we have Chris Brook, who we are now looking at. Then we have Oliver White, currently running first in provisional pole. Actually, he's just parked up. I don't know why he's listed as first. There you go. Then let's just have it. There we go. We've got the cameras back. Then we have Nick Horn in the grey car. We have... and then newcomers, guest racers for today. We have Mark Maloney in the number 89 dark red machine. We have Max Chowdhury in the... I actually haven't seen him out on track yet. I don't know what color he's in. Professionalism. Oh, there we go. He's pink, just as he should be. So he is in the pink car. And then we also have Mantis Sluggerus with us today as well in the number 19 gunmetal grey machine. If we can find him somewhere to put the camera on. I mean, this is a PlayStation. This is not my jam. I'm just going to mash the buttons until I find... No, okay, but let's have a look at Samuel Rasool instead. Now, he's actually, I think, one of the few drivers to be in a matte-coloured car. Our regulations don't allow liveries per se, just as our first timed laps start coming in. So we don't allow liveries per se, just because that's going to be a nightmare with any kind of governance around that. But we do allow our drivers free rein in terms of their colour. And a true racer reading between the lines of the regulations, that also meant that we have no restrictions on your paint finish. So Samuel Rasool here then really literally interpreting the rules with a matte finished car, the only one in the grid as far as I know. And as well as that, very fast indeed, having won both of the 2 previous races, and last round also setting the fastest lap of the race and claiming pole position. So overall, in round 2 of Thunderwood Sim2Race, which was in the Toyota Supra at Autopolis, a dominant performance from Samuel Rasool. Who else have we got? So currently running in second place then is challenger Mantis Sluggerus here in the number 2, second place number 19 car. We're going to see how he does this week. Not usually a huge Gran Turismo racer, so perhaps we may find he's out of his comfort zone, but he also is brimming with natural talent, so perhaps he'll fit into this sphere just as well as he does into others. Next up we have James Partridge, currently running in third. He was the fastest... Sorry, that's a lie, I'm sorry to say. James Partridge was not the fastest. What was it I mean to say? That he is fast. He is fast. But he sadly missed last week's race. We had some kind of technical hiccup that saw us somehow unceremoniously remove 5 drivers from the race. No idea how that happened, and I blame entirely Polyphony Digital and the gods of Gran Turismo for doing that. Maybe Sony PlayStation as well. This is all of their fault, but not ours. But we have a workaround should that happen again, which is people will text me on WhatsApp saying, yo, I've been kicked off, and then we will get them back. Very simple. just while I check that that hasn't happened yet, because this is very much it's not a one-man band, one-man band, but it is definitely a limited personnel band. We have John Birrell today helping us out with stewarding duties. Thank you very much. And as part of the stewarding then, let's explain how that happens. What we do here is we police contact incidents ourselves. This is what the stewarding is for. Because when you leave those kind of very nuanced judgments up to a game, it doesn't tend to do that overly well. Now, what Gran Turismo does judge on our behalf is track limits, and as the race proceeds, it will apply those penalties where relevant. Actually, there we go, just as we say that, James Partridge runs right off the track. But, you know, this is one of the temptations at Goodwood, is that there is very little to hit, and so you may perhaps be feeling more bold in terms of track limits than you would do at another circuit, right? When there's naturally nothing to hit, you have less fear in terms of pushing your limits. So Gran Turismo is going to be policing that on our behalf, just as we see James Partridge go off again. But, you know, this is I mean, oh, but he gets that chicane beautifully. Okay. Very good there from James Partridge. So we have our track limits policed by Gran Turismo itself. But just as we see Ollie Wilmot there in the background, let's actually just switch to him, see how he's doing. He's been very, very quick indeed all series so far. Claiming, I don't want to lie, but I think pole position in the first race. Maybe. Well, probably not. I actually don't remember. And then finishing second in also, I think, both races so far. It's almost like this is our series, and I should be remembering this stuff. But hey, who's going to fire me? Nobody, because I'm not going to fire myself. Ollie Wilmot then, very fast indeed, currently running in third behind Race Dreamer Rob, who last time around was also not able to join us. He was one of the victims. Oh my goodness, just as Samuel Rasool there. Oh my goodness, that is that is some questionable car placement. Thankfully, this is merely qualifying, but we have seen that, and we will take that on board. Samuel Rasool then definitely feeling fighty today, just as he pushes Chris Brook a little bit wide out of the final corner, coming onto the start-finish straight. What is one of the other rules that our stewards will be looking out for is every driver must complete a pit stop during the course of the race. Now, what Thunderwood Sim2Race aims to do, as we know, is crown its series champion and provide them with a little bit, but, you know, a still nice amount of funding towards real-life motorsport entry fees. And any part of real-life motorsport, whether that's even if it's just a track day, or even if you're just having a hoon on country lanes, tire management is key. You know, from Le Mans all the way down to go-karts, Formula 1, whatever. You know, super saloons, you've got to manage your tires. So to test that, what we do in Thunderwood Sim2Race is we... Oh, very slow through there. What we do in Thunderwood Sim2Race is we accelerate the tire wear to the point that drivers must manage their tires. You know, if they choose to fight early on in the race and don't really pace themselves too well, they are going to struggle. And it's a 20-minute race, which in terms of, you know, video game land, is actually quite long. So, you know, drivers need to bear in mind that it's a marathon, not a sprint. Let's manage our tires and bring this home. So to that end, we've really ramped up the tire wear and also mandated all drivers to take a pit stop. When they take a pit stop, it's completely up to them, and especially at a circuit like this, in these cars on this compound of tire, for some reason tire wear seems particularly low, which means our drivers have even more choice in terms of when to pit. They may choose to do so earlier on in the race, putting them further back, but then into clean air once everyone else pits, and they'll be on fresher tires to really make up some positions. Or they can wait right until the end of the race and be on super fresh tyres and in a great position to attack as we enter the closing stages of the race. Now, how drivers do this is completely up to them. Now, as we can see, there's a very close fight currently between our top 3 cars. In first, we have race streamer Rob running extremely wide on the exit and coming into the pit lane for a change of tyres. Oh, let's watch this. This is incredible. Look at that. Look at these little guys. That is phenomenal. With air jacks on a BMW E30 M3. Okay, fine. Oh, just as Samuel Rasool claims provisional pole by 0.2 of a second, with 9 minutes remaining. So, just as I was about to say, the battle here for pole is very, very close indeed. Just as some kind of business is going to happen here between Chris Brook and Samuel Rasool, making full use of that slipstream, which is crucial around a circuit like Goodwood, because the straights here are just so long. So that will be a massive, massive advantage had he not just fallen off the track a tiny bit and fallen behind Chris Brook. But as you can see, our top 3 are very close together. Race streamer Rob only 0.2 seconds behind provisional pole, and Manta Schlögeris is 0.4 seconds behind pole position as well. Ollie Wilmot just 0.02 of a second behind him in the green number 17 car, and Liam Meredith in the yellow number 9 is only 0.4 seconds behind that. So our top 5 separated by less than a second. Chris Brookie then with just a further 0.2 seconds behind. Nick Horn another 0.2 behind that, and Ollie White is 0.08 of a second behind that, and only 1.4 seconds off provisional pole. And considering how long this circuit is, and how crucial getting every single corner exit is, just because of how long the straights are, actually for our field to be that compressed and that close in terms of their qualifying lap times is a very exciting prospect in terms of how the race itself is going to pan out. So as we just take a look then, we haven't really looked at James Partridge just yet. He is 2.2 seconds adrift of provisional pole. Then we have Mark Maloney here running very wide, and following that we then have Max Chowdhury here in the most beautiful car of the grid, I'm sure we will all agree, with even some sneaky little blue bits on the car. Nothing escapes our eyes, but we'll allow that, even though actually that kind of looks like maybe that is meant to be there. All these cars seem to have that. Maybe Gran Turismo lets you paint that, I don't really know. So let's just have a look then at Liam Meredith, who's actually about to come over the start-finish line. Ah, here we go. So let's ride on board with Ollie Wilmot for a lap and see how he manages to handle this qualifying performance. Just as we take a look here then. So, coming into turn 1, Madrid corner, takes loads of apex, running wide. You can just see how beautifully sideways these cars get. Where this week we've spec'd them to be on a slightly harder tyre. And as you all know, these E30 M3s have a very compact 4-cylinder engine, 234 horsepower, but with a massive red line, very revvy, very quick, very responsive, and very crucially tail-happy. And combined with the high-speed nature of this course, with some big braking zones and a harder tyre, what that means is we're going to be seeing lots of slip, just as Ollie Wilmot there gets a little bit sideways, just coming into Lavant corner now. Hang on. What map am I using? Is this even Goodwood? It kind of looks like Goodwood. Okay, here we go. My map is, yeah, cool. Right, so now he's coming into Woodcut. Oh, I see. Yeah, hang on, I got the wrong map. Let me just, we will be right back after this technical break. Let's play some elevator music while we try to stall this out. With 5 minutes remaining of the session, just as Ollie Wilmot comes through that devastatingly, potentially fatal chicane. Very tough one to get right, indeed. Right, so. Now we have the right map, which is very important when trying to do commentary. It's not like I've been doing this for 10 years. So, here we go then. Ollie Wilmot, 0.4 seconds off the lead, just about to dive into Ford water, carrying loads of speed. You can just see him just kiss that curb a teeny tiny little bit, like one sheepish preschooler kissing the cheek of another one, and he just leans on those tires hard, coming through St. Mary's with a quick little right-left little bit of Sutton, then about to dive into Lavant Corner. Hard on the brakes, one of the biggest braking points of this circuit. You can just see how much curb he's taken there, and now he's going to ride this out down the Lavant straight. And you can just see who I believe is Ollie White there, just in the distance. So our two Ollies currently sharing the same straight. Just as Ollie Wilmot now starts coming into Woodcote, he's now started to the final sector, braking into Woodcote ever so slightly. There we go, throw that in. Runs a tiny bit wide and gets sideways, runs around wide on the marbles, and then takes loads of exit curb. And now the chicane, like threading a needle, but on crack. There we go. But he's done a superb job, running over into the pit lane, which would not be allowed in real-life motorsport, but this isn't real-life motorsport, so who cares? As he now comes back into Madgwick. So, currently our fastest of the session so far on provisional pole is Samuel Rasool, also nailing that chicane beautifully and leading from mystery newcomer dark horse Mantis Sloggerus by a mere 1/100th of a second. And is that Mantis there just tucking into his slipstream? No, that was maybe Nick Horn. There we go. Nick Horn then 1.3 seconds off the lead, just trying his damnedest to try to keep up with Samuel Rasool, but Samuel Rasool has been truly very fast and very smooth all season. And I say all season like this is some kind of lengthy thing. All season in terms of through both our qualifying sessions that are 20 minutes long and both of our races, which are 20 minutes long. So, yes. But despite that, so a combined 80 minutes of track time, he has been very smooth and very consistent and very fast for all of that. But what's crucial is this battle that's developing here between Mantis Sloggerus, a mere 1/100th of a second behind Samuel, and then Race Streamer Rob here just trying to close up that gap, 0.2 of a second behind that. And Ollie Wilmot, who has been very strong as well throughout and a regular challenger for the first position, he is now running 0.4 seconds behind. But Goodwood is a very specific kind of circuit that doesn't match everyone's tastes. The high-speed nature of it means that really you've got to be carrying so much... Oh, yellow flag has just come out as somebody... Oh, who is that? Who's facing backwards? Let's just... cycle through the cameras. Oh, Oliver White then. As I was saying, it is quite an easy circuit to get wrong. It doesn't suit everyone's style either. And it's a very, very difficult track to really nail in terms of it is just like threading a very high-speed needle. If you're a fan of braking, if you're a braking expert, you are not catered for here. If you're a fan of hairpins and technical sections, you are not catered for here. It's a very specific and unique kind of circuit that really needs a very unique style to succeed at. And this is going to be a challenge for a lot of our drivers. So we see Samuel Rasool then just building on his lead. He's now pulled out a 0.3 of a second faster lap to extend his advantage in terms of provisional pole. Mantis Slogger is so far not able to have an answer for that. Race Streamer Rob now falling back 0.5 of a seconds away from the provisional pole, just as Chris Brookie and James Partridge set their fastest qualifying laps so far. Personal bests for them, and Samuel Rasool then leading with a 1/22 point, something I couldn't see because that disappeared too fast. But crucially, 0.2 of a second ahead of Mantis Sloggerus here. And Race Streamer Rob here as well, who was very strong in round 1, and then tragically was lost to the great Gran Turismo purge of 2020 when we lost him for round 2. But he is back, and he is back with a vengeance. Can you just see how close he got to that wall? In fact, a little bit too close, taking a bit of an unusual line and washing out wide and hitting the wall and then shooting to the pit. Oh my god, what's going on here? Now he's been plonked back onto the track by the Gran Turismo gods. Never mind. Samuel Rasul then very fast indeed, and we have one point. Why am I using point for minutes? What are we? 1.5 minutes remaining of qualifying. So really, our guys are going to have to get a little bit of a wiggle on to try to improve on this. These are now our drivers are now coming into their final few laps. And really, from what we've seen so far, pole position is so important in Thunderwood Sim2Race because our drivers are so keen, just as massive tank slapper there from Samuel Rasul, and he does collect the wall. Oh dear, only ever so slightly. We do have damage switched off, so he won't have suffered too much from that, but perhaps may have a bruised ego. But you can see how hard our drivers are pushing, and this is key. During the race, our drivers push very hard, which means they're all holding each other up, and they're all burning each other's tires just by having to weave around and fight so much. So provisional pole and being able to get a clean start and scamper away into the distance means that really you have a great chance at a win. So far, a 100% record. So Samuel Rasul is going to be keen to repeat that again, just as he comes through to start his final lap. Oh, hazard lights are on. Finish. Right, so what that means is we now have... Actually, I don't even know. What does that mean? 15 seconds? Okay, 15 seconds. 11, 10. So yes, Samuel Rasul is going to be very happy with that pole. 0.3 seconds, nearly 0.4 seconds ahead of second place Sim2Race, and 0.5 seconds ahead of race streamer Rob. Qualifying has now ended, and Samuel is going to look to really make the most of his pole position advantage and scamper away into the distance, never to be seen again. So, our drivers are now lined up, all of them here flashing their lights. That is actually a real joy, to not have lost anyone, because that was very painful. There we go, a whole grid of 11 cars. That is very juicy. Very juicy indeed. We now have a 20-minute timer, and in the 20 minutes, whoever covers the biggest distance is our winner. And the lights go out. Samuel Rasul then getting a little bit of wheel spin, as are lots of our drivers, as it just looks like Sim2Race is just getting a tiny bit of a... just catching up to him ever so slightly. Oh my goodness, these guys are so bunched up. That's actually quite a terrifying prospect. Let's switch off these names because they're distracting, and hopefully by now we know who everyone is. Samuel Rasul then with a half-second lead already, and race streamer Rob now having overtaken Sim2Race to claim second place. But you can just see Mantis just wriggling around to try to earn that place back as they really take a generous serving of curb. Race streamer Rob there with loads of slip angle just coming through there. And only 0.8 seconds so far separating our top three. You can see there's a bit of a lead now between Ollie Wilmot and Oliver White. These are, these are drivers that have been very strong throughout the season so far. And it's not perhaps surprising to see them already having edged out a visible lead over 5th place and beyond. And no doubt they will be keen to make an impression. Now, race streamer Rob, he's angry. He is keen for revenge after having so bitterly missed out on the race last week. He is back with a vengeance. Just as they all thread that needle through the chicane, Samuel Rasul then still untouched, but crucially maintaining only the same gap of 0.5 seconds, falling back now to 0.3. Is he finally now actually under challenge? Is his lead so dominant so far now under threat at Goodwood? A very different circuit as the gap looks to close very much, 0.1 of a second, as race streamer Rob really tries to take a look at making a move around Samuel Rasul but can't quite make it stick. And the two of them are currently in a league of their own, really pulling away a strong lead, just as race streamer Rob there really on the edge of traction. This is such an incredibly difficult circuit to try to thread together, just because it's so high speed and any mistake will be heavily punished. Just as Samuel Rasul there making the most of one tiny little slip-up from Rob Dowsett, just to pull out a further 0.2 seconds of his lead. You can just see Sim2Race there also hot on their heels, with 1 second dividing our top 3 cars so far. If we just take a little look further back, Ollie Wilmot there then, already having fallen back 2.3 seconds from the lead, keen to catch the front runners and be back in the position that he's actually used to be being. Just as Samuel Rasool runs wide, he loses the place to race streamer Rob and falls back into the clutches of Mantis Schloggeris. This is not the start that he wanted. He was so used to getting a clean start and scampering away into the distance. This time, he has more of a fight on his hands, just as Mantis Schloggeris then looks down the inside, doesn't make a move, but just pokes his nose through to let Samuel know that he's there and he's coming. Further down the field, we have Mark Maloney already covered in damage. Just losing a place there then to Liam Meredith. Already 10 seconds off the lead, but this is the problem. These guys are all so embroiled in their fights that really they're going to be dropping time all over the place like nobody's business. Just like our friend... Oh, just as Mark Maloney just looks around... sneaking and snaking and weaving and meandering around Liam Meredith, trying to unsettle him just as he gets sideways, cuts off loads of track. And, oh my goodness, these guys are fighting hard. These guys are fighting hard. So hard, in fact, that... Actually, that's a really bad segue, but I'm going to do it anyway. So here's what Liam had to say about his last race and his ambitions for this week.
Last time out, podium was a good result, so we've got to execute the plan again, qualify well, and try and get away at the start. I think that's the key to success, is not get involved in too many of the battles and see what we can bring home this time.
So there we go. And currently, perhaps he's not running in the position he wanted to be in, but he is definitely having a little bit of a fight on his hands, and he is impressing. He is doing very well just to keep away from Mark Maloney, who was fighting very hard to try to catch onto the back of him, just as we can see Mark Maloney coming in for a sneaky deaky little pit stop. The first of all. Only 5 minutes of the race have elapsed. Oh, no, he fell into the pit lane by accident, it would appear. Race streamer Rob then unable to pull away significantly from Samuel Rasool, who is hot on his tail. Only a 0.3 second lead. Now we're going to see some racecraft. Samuel Rasool so far has really managed to capitalize on his dominant qualifyings to then couple that with clean starts and scamper away into the distance. We haven't had to see him really fight. So, this is going to be very interesting. As we can see, race streamer Rob here feeling the pressure, now falling further back towards Samuel Rasool and leading by only 1/10 of a second. And while that fight is going on, Mantis in the background in third place can smell blood. He is going in for the kill. And once any of these top drivers make a mistake, he is going to be right on top of them, just as race streamer Rob, side by side with Samuel Rasool, just about covers off that line. Samuel Rasool shoves it down the inside, pushes race streamer Rob out wide ever so slightly, and coming into the chicane 3 into 1 does not go. Samuel Rasool reclaims that first position. Oh my goodness, what was that? That was tough, but fair, by the looks of things. But our stewards may also choose to look at that and see what conclusions they reach. Just as race streamer Rob then falls further back towards Mantis Schloggeris, runs wide, gets very sideways indeed, letting Mantis through. Now it's Mantis's turn for a crack at the whip. Can he catch Samuel Rasool and claim that first place? We have not had a battle for first place yet in Thunderwood Sim2Race. This is very exciting, perhaps uncharacteristically so. Because, I mean, Sim2Race is a bunch of dudes on PlayStations, right? But somehow it's given us great racing as Samuel Rasool pulls out a further 0.2 seconds to improve his advantage to 0.7 seconds. Further down the field then, we have Ollie Wilmot running a little bit in a field of his own with Ollie White, the other Ollie. And I don't mean that dismissively, I just mean in terms of, I was talking about one Ollie, so I'm going to talk about the other Ollie now. Is just ever so slightly behind that by 0.8 of a second, and he is going to be very keen to make an impression then. And really that position is within grasp. He's performed very well all series so far, and he can see that place within his grips, and he is going to be keen to really grab that. That being said, Ollie Wilmot himself is also very fast and very determined as well. And having had such great finishes in the last 2 races, probably isn't terribly happy with being down as far as 4th. Just as we can see then, Oliver White coming into the pit lane somewhere when I find him on the cameras. There he is, Air Jackson in E30 M3, but we'll roll with that. There we go. And he is now back out in 7th place, 16 seconds away from the lead, but crucially, having already pitted for tyres. Meanwhile, back in front, Samuel Rasool has built up a 1-second lead over Manta Sluggeris, and he looks keen to build on that further still. It'll be interesting to see how they factor this into their pit stops, because actually, we're talking about tenths of a second here. You know, this fight can go either way, and they're hovering around the 1 minute mark, 1 second gap mark, sorry, and one mistake can change the outcome of everything. Just as we see then, we now hit 11 minutes remaining, coming up to the halfway point of the race. We've already seen one driver come in for a tyre change, which is brave and interesting. Stunning and brave. Don't mind me. So he's come in for that, and now we're going to wait for our other drivers to do the same. Now, crucially, so far we've seen indicators there from Samuel Rasool as he comes into the pit lane, presumably. That's very literal discipline to indicate before coming into the pit lane. That's like real racing, but in Gran Turismo. That's quite cool. So now, crucially, Mantis has got clean air to try to build what lead he can. So race streamer Rob there, hot on his heels, is also going to be keen. And, you know, what that could result in is having dropped Samuel Rasool into traffic, but it hasn't done. So he's sitting there comfortably in 3rd place, running his own race currently on fresh tyres, crucially. 8 seconds away from 2nd place, and 4 seconds in front of Ollie Wilmot in 4th. So he's running his own race. Crucially, he needs to get his brain in the zone, just really focus on the track, and just bang in some very clean hot laps on the fresh tyres and make the most of the clean air that he has. It's possible that he's really played this in his favour, as we just see Ollie Wilmot here then coming through very sideways, still chased by also very sideways Oliver White. Now, if we just switch back to 3rd place, actually we won't do that, we'll do that afterwards. Now, missing today is Tino Schilling, who, for various sim-related technical issues, could not join us, and he is sorely missed. And in fact, he too shared with us his thoughts coming into this week's race, although he is not able to join us. That has not worked. Okay, well, anyway, let's go back to this view. And then... oh, Ollie White there getting a little bit sideways. Well, let's try.
Last week I didn't quite get the result I wanted to. I had to pit earlier than expected due to excessive tyre wear fighting, but I managed to hold them together in the 2nd stint and gain an extra place. This week there's going to be no mistakes had at Goodwood, and I am actually doing the Le Mans 24 hours on iRacing at the same time, so it's going to be a big day.
So, that being said, he is not with us this week, but we will see him back very soon. Meanwhile, up in front, Samuel Rasool has now reclaimed his lead as our drivers have pitted, presumably. We were too busy watching Ollie White get very sideways and laggy around the track. But Samuel Rasool then back where he wants to be. He has pitted, and he has now come out with a 4.7 second lead. How he's managed that is actually... That's some smart driving, some smart strategizing from a driver who has been very strong all series. Just as he comes into that chicane, threads that needle, boy! Running a little bit wide, but doesn't run into the pit lane entrance line, which a lot of our drivers have been doing so far, but he manages to keep it tidy out of the chicane, avoids the pit lane entry, which would be a penalty in other forms of motorsport, but he handled that very beautifully. Clean. Meanwhile, Mantis Sluggerus then just coming into turn 1, hot on his heels, and by hot on his heels I mean 4 seconds adrift. So actually not that hot on his heels. But we then have Ollie Wilmot then back up to 3rd. Oh, just leading from Race Streamer Rob. Let's see how this battle pans out just as they come into... Oh my goodness, here we go. We have a fight on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. We have a fight. Oh, Race Streamer Rob then getting very sideways indeed. Just as he tries to make his way around the outside of Ollie Wilmot. Is he going to be able to make that happen? No. Or is he? These guys are neck and neck. 0.03 of a second split them. Just as they come into the Lavant, straight into the final corner. Woodcut, before they hit the chicane, and 2 into 1 does not go. How are they going to handle this? Right, here we go. Through Woodcut. Ollie Wilmot still ever so slightly ahead of Race Streamer Rob, 0.3 of a second. Managed that tidily, but Ollie Wilmot runs wide on the outside. Crucially letting Race Dreamer Rob right past. Rob Dowsett getting in there, making the most of Ollie Wilmot's mistake and leapfrogging him into 3rd place. That's some tidy driving, kept everything together. Ollie Wilmot there then, feeling perhaps a little bit under pressure coming into that chicane, didn't take the best line through there, ran a little bit wide on the exit, and allowed Rob Dowsett through into 3rd place. He will be ruining that mistake, and with 5 minutes of the race remaining, this could be a critical one. That being said, these cars are very tail happy, the circuit is very fast, and when things go wrong, they will go wrong very fast and very sideways. So, all could still be won and lost for these two, and I suspect this fight is going to go on right until the end of the race. Meanwhile, Mantis Sluggerus then comfortably lapping 5 seconds away from the lead and 2 seconds clear of Rob in 3rd place. So he's running his own race, and he'll be wondering what he can do to gain 1 second per minute to try to catch up to Samuel Rasool coming into the closing stages of the race. Just as you can see, he is within sight, and that gap is coming down ever so slightly, corner by corner. Oh, just as Mantis runs wide on the exit there. I don't think he would have wanted to do that, but he doesn't appear to have lost too much time to Samuel Rasool up here in 1st place. So, let's hear what he had to say after last week's strong, dominant performance, which, as you may remember, was a complete unchallenged lights to flag victory.
I've got to say, in my last 2 rounds, I've been extremely lucky that I haven't had to battle with anyone yet. The reason for that is because my strategy doesn't really allow for much battling to go on. That's because I'd end up using up my tyres early, and then I'd have to pit early, which means there's a high chance of me getting stuck in traffic, and that's exactly what I don't want to happen. With me, I'm just aiming for a smooth, clean drive and try to stay out of trouble as much as possible, really.
So then, he is doing exactly as he promised. Strong performance. He wasn't able to keep his nose as clean this time around and had to fend off a really significant challenge from Rob Dowsett, and I wonder if that's going to be a theme we'll see more of throughout the series. As we are only on round 3, we have 2 more remaining, so there is still time to see whether that battle will mature. But currently, Samuel Rasool then maintaining his 5-second lead, very comfortable, pole position, and now running in the lead, comfortably clear of 2nd place. Who is gaining ever so slightly, but with 3 minutes remaining, is that going to be enough? We don't know. But Mantis Sluggerus will give that a damn good try. Meanwhile then, let's take a look at the fight that was taking place between... Oh goodness, I don't even remember. Race Dreamer Rob then is 1 second clear of Ollie Wilmot, so it looks like that battle is tied up for now. Let's see what's happening else. So we haven't actually given Liam a great deal of love today, so he deserves it. Very fast guy indeed, but the fights at the front have been so vicious that they have just been capturing all of our screen time. So let's give him a little bit of love. Just leading Chris Brookie by 1.2 seconds, who is just... You can just see his name there on the side of the car. Our liveries are very severely restricted, but you are allowed to put your name on the side of the car, and he has taken full advantage of that. As you can just see, coming into 11th corner on the brakes, the funny little dip that unsettles the car. I mean, this circuit is actually a bit of a nightmare. But there you go. Mark Maloney then currently running in 8th place, 10 seconds ahead of James Partridge. Himself slightly ahead of... 20 seconds ahead of Max Chowdhury. And have we lost... I haven't seen Nick Horn in a while. Where is Nick Horn? Got himself in a muddle. Oh dear, never mind. So we've lost Nick Horn, which then crucially puts everyone in the points. We now have 10 drivers only. So Samuel Rasool then still currently running in first place with 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining. Looking to be unchallenged, maintaining that comfortable gap of 5 seconds, give or take, to Mantis, who will sometimes eat into it a tiny bit and then fall back, because maintaining this kind of pace is very difficult. Then, behind that, we have... Here we go, Slowman Mantis Sluggerus. Behind that, we have Race Dreamer Rob with a very strong comeback from having just not appeared and been a non-entity in last week's race through no fault of his own. We blame entirely Polyphony Digital. But he's now come from being did not start to a very well-earned 3rd place so far, with half a minute remaining. Can Ollie Wilmot actually close that gap? We don't know, but he's going to give it a try. Samuel Rasool then, 20 seconds remaining, begins his final lap. And it looks like the writing is on the wall. Mantis Snugger is trying to do what he can to catch him, but unable to make an impression as we come into the final closing stages of the race. Oliver White here with his left indicator switched on. Oh no, his hazards generally, which is quite easy to do when you're driving with a wheel. And actually the timer has now elapsed. Checkered flag for both Ollie White, Liam Meredith, and now Chris Brookie as well. They have concluded their final lap, and they are finishing in positions 5, 6, and 7. Our front 4 are just rounding up their final lap. Samuel Rasool then just coming into 11th corner now, onto the straight, and looking unchallenged as he rounds up his final lap of round 3 of Thunderwood's Sim2Race. Newcomer Mantis Schnuggeris then just behind him with a commendable 2nd place, well earned, well fought for. Race Dreamer Rob down in 3rd, doing very well indeed, and really giving a warning to the other drivers to say, don't discount me. I was gone, but now I am back. Which is not a great soundbite, but we're gonna go with it. I'm sorry for putting such unsexy words in Race Streamer Rob's mouth. I don't even know why do I call him Race Streamer Rob. Just as lights and hazards and all that good stuff from Samuel Rasool as he comes across the line to claim first place on lap 15. Slowman Mantis Schluggeris there in 2nd place. Race Streamer Rob Dowsett takes 3rd. Ollie Wilmot 4th. And there we have it. This is our final running order. Victory then from Samuel Rasool. Orange on orange on orange, and orange is perhaps very close to gold. He has the victory. Let's just do, here we go. All immersion has been destroyed. We're now back in PlayStation land. So if we click onto the race results, there we go. So fastest lap, Samuel Rasool. Pole position, Samuel Rasool. Winner, Samuel Rasool. From Mantis Sluggeris, from Rob Dowsett, from Oliver Wilmot, from Oliver White. Then, in 6th place, Liam Meredith, 7th, Chris Brookie, 8th, Mark Maloney, 9th, James Partridge, and 10th, Max Chowdhury. So, that is the result of what has actually been a particularly exciting Sim2Race, perhaps one that our stewards are going to rack their brains over, because there was a lot of vicious fighting there, the likes of which we haven't really seen before, especially at the sharp end of the grid. You know, it's rare to have a fight like that extending from first to last place. So we've seen action throughout, and a lot of exciting driving on this very high-speed circuit with these very tail-happy cars. As always, thank you very much for joining us. Please bear in mind that these results are provisional and subject to stewards blah-de-blah-de-blah. And then, when the results are confirmed, they shall be published on our social channels for you to admire and adore. But for now, a provisional congratulations to Samuel Rasool. Thank you to our other 9 wonderful drivers, and to you, dear viewers. And we will see you soon. Thank you very much. Good night.